asked for an opportunity to address the committee again, having heard your testimony. So I'd like to invite the Commissioner to come back up again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I feel like as much as I'm addressing the committee, I'm addressing the public here. I started my remarks by saying to you that I understood the passion and the concern that's represented in this community and how core your schools are to your community. And you have certainly reinforced that for me. I've heard that very loudly and clearly. I want to express my deep respect to you for that perspective. I want to address a couple of points. There have been a number of comments presented in this hearing. I took quotes. This was a flagrant rubber stamping, bow to the pressure of the governor's office, presupposed outcome, policy of advancing at least one charter school to satisfy the charter school community. I do feel I need to be a little bit defensive on those comments because I have, this is my first year working with the State Board of Education. I will tell you that this board is anything but a rubber stamp. There's no issue for which this board devotes more time on its agenda over the course of the year and deliberates and agonizes decision by decision, including the Gloucester decision. So I just want to, for however compelling you find that statement, this was not a predetermined outcome. I also want to address the notion that by not having a board member present at the Gloucester hearing, that the Gloucester input was therefore not considered, not heard, not sufficiently understood. And I think that if you read through the minutes and if you were present at any of the board deliberations on the topic of the Gloucester hearing, you would find overwhelming evidence that this board absolutely agonized over the public input that they heard and the understanding that they had that the opposition far exceeded the support for the school. There was no confusing that, I don't think, in any board member's mind. In some cases, that was determinative of a negative vote toward my recommendations, and that's reflected in the minutes. In at least one case, that's reflected in a board member who decided to vote yes, but acknowledged the kind of input that the community provided. At the end of the day, I think you'd be hard-pressed to make the argument that somehow the process was flawed and that public input was not heard or not seen. I understand it's not the outcome that a lot of folks in this room wished for, which is a different story than whether or not the input was in fact heard, deliberated, considered. I think it was enormously. In fact, I shared with you in my testimony the fact that I also agonized over this decision. A lot of references have been made to the document behind me. That document was prepared for me for the first of a series of internal meetings. I met for hours with my own staff internally to look at the 3 applications in front of us. This was designed to start the conversation, the first of a number of internal meetings. And in fact, there was a split decision on whether or not the Gloucester charter school should be approved or not. And there was lots of deliberation and agonization over that and the other 2 charter schools. And we spent a lot of time in a very deliberate way looking at the merits of those proposals. So it's my hope that this hearing is helpful to the legislature, and I do appreciate the opportunity the legislature has provided to look in depth at the question of the process. It's my hope that this hearing is helpful to the community and providing a platform for this community to move forward and to channel the kind of passion and concern that you've reinforced tonight on keeping your eye on moving the system forward with or without a charter school in the midst. I really do hope that for this community, and I've left here with a tremendous amount of respect for the dedication you bring to the children of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any questions for the Commissioner? Senator O'Leary?
Sorry. One of the things we heard tonight, of course, is the fiscal impact of a charter school on the budget of the public school system, the districts in which they're established. That's a concern statewide, and it's a concern this committee has as well, and it's one of the reasons we've been pushing language in the budget to really take a harder look at this concern. I understand that in your approval process, you said at one point, I believe, that one of the criteria you used would be the ability of the City of Gloucester to meet foundation requirements in fiscal year 10 for purposes of, at least as one of the criteria used in terms of making a recommendation or not. And I guess my concern is, or question / concern is that if the school is established in the fall of 10, it's really fiscal year 11 that this issue was, the financial impacts are really going to begin to manifest themselves. And so it seems to me we should be thinking more about 11 than 10, and whether the impacts in 11 are likely to be as positive as 10, I guess, from your perspective.
Senator O'Leary, just to clarify, the recommendation that I made to the board had to do with the state meeting its obligation to Gloucester, because I am concerned statewide, not just with Gloucester, about the impact of the fiscal downturn. And I heard very clearly from the community that same level of concern. And so for that reason, I recommended that the board not simply vote the school up or down, but tie the startup to the state meeting its fiscal obligation. And there was a lot of discussion about which fiscal year. And in fact, tying the startup to the state's fiscal obligation was not universally embraced by my board. During the debate on the motion, on the recommendation that I made, there was an attempt by board members, 2 board members who voted for this attempt to amend my recommendation to decouple any kind of fiscal trigger from the approval. And in fact, and that vote lost. And in fact, on the final vote, you will see one of the board members who voted against the approval of the charter school, in fact, clarified in the minutes that she approved the startup of the charter school. She did not think any fiscal triggers should be put on that startup.
Thank you. Representative Benson?
Yes, just to follow up to Chairman O'Leary's question. The one thing that's different potentially between FY10 and FY11 funding is economic stimulus money being able to backfill the state's Chapter 70 share. And I'm wondering if that is being taken into consideration as well. I believe that there will be a funding cliff after FY10 when that money from the federal government dries up, and that may skew the numbers a bit in relation to the charter school.
You know, part of the Representative Benson, through the chair, part of the challenge here is thinking about this fiscal trigger and its timing in relation to fiscal obligations a charter school has to make to get off the ground. They have to find a facility, they have to get a lease, they have to make real fiscal commitments, ramp up staffing, and to hold a charter school to a trigger that they won't know until they reach that fall really kind of puts them in a no-win scenario. I mean, it's something that we debated a lot, but that's where we ultimately came down.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Representative Clark.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Senator Tarr and Representative Ferrante, for having us here. What an incredibly articulate community on all sides of this issue. So I apologize for being late. There was a piano recital that had to be attended in my household.